Something just shifted inside NASCAR, and I'm telling you right now, this is bigger than just another front office change. Because when the guy running the entire sport comes out and says, "We're not the story, the drivers are," that tells you everything about where NASCAR thinks it's headed, and maybe where it's been going wrong. Stick with me here, because this isn't just about a new CEO, this is about identity. This is about direction, and this might be the start of a completely different era for NASCAR as we know it. And hey, real quick, if you are a true NASCAR fan like me, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. NASCAR Nation news is just getting started. We are pushing for our next subscriber milestone, and it's all about real talk from fans who follow this sport every week. All right, let's get into it. So here's the situation. Steve O'Donnell, after 31 seasons inside NASCAR, has officially stepped into the CEO role. And alongside him, Ben Kennedy is now the Chief Operating Officer. On paper, this is a leadership change. But if you read O'Donnell's letter to the fans, it suggests something more significant. The very first thing he says, he doesn't like being in the news. That's not something you typically hear from modern sports executives. Most leagues today tend to lean into headlines, controversy, and narrative building. But O'Donnell is taking a different approach. He's saying, "We're not the story, the drivers are." And that appears to directly address a concern many fans have had for years. Because recently, NASCAR itself has often been the headline. Rule changes, playoff debates, inconsistency in officiating, penalty decisions. At times, it has felt like the racing has taken a secondary role. Now, here's why this matters. When leadership sets a tone like this, it can influence everything. Race control decisions, penalty enforcement, how often rules are adjusted mid-season. If O'Donnell truly believes the spotlight should remain on the drivers, then we may see fewer moments where NASCAR becomes the central story. But the key question is, can that actually be achieved? Because one of NASCAR's biggest challenges in recent seasons has been consistency. One week, a call is made one way. The next week, a similar situation is handled differently. Fans notice that. Drivers notice that. Teams certainly notice that. So when O'Donnell says the fans are his consultants, it sets a clear expectation. It signals that feedback matters. But it also raises the standard. Because if fans don't see that reflected in how races are managed, that trust can fade quickly. Now, looking further into his message, O'Donnell doesn't just talk about leadership. He outlines a broader vision. He references Talladega, the Coca-Cola 600 on Memorial Day weekend, cars racing near aircraft carriers in San Diego, North Wilkesboro returning to host a Cup points race after 30 years, and the playoff format narrowing from 16 to 12 to 10 drivers. This reflects an effort to reconnect the sport with its core identity, and that's important right now because NASCAR finds itself in a unique position. The on-track product is strong, but the overall conversation around the sport hasn't always matched that strength. There's been a disconnect between what happens during races and how fans feel about the sport as a whole. O'Donnell appears to recognize that. He's not only focused on maintaining NASCAR, but also on growing it. And growth introduces new variables, new markets, new formats, new audiences. At the same time, there's a concern among longtime fans. Is the sport changing too much? Is it moving away from what originally made it special? That's the balance leadership now has to manage. Now bringing this back to competition. If NASCAR leadership becomes more consistent, more predictable, and more focused on the drivers, that can have a direct impact on racing. Teams perform better when expectations are clear. Drivers race with more confidence when they trust the system. And in a playoff structure where a single decision can affect a championship outcome, consistency matters. If drivers feel that NASCAR is stepping back and allowing them to compete more freely, we may see increased aggression, more decisive moves, more competitive finishes. That aligns with what many fans want to see. However, the outcome depends on execution. Stating that drivers are the focus is one thing. Maintaining that approach across a full 36 race season is another. So now, the focus shifts to what happens next. Will this leadership approach bring the consistency fans have been asking for? Or will it follow a familiar pattern of promises that are difficult to sustain? And more importantly, should NASCAR take a step back and allow drivers greater control of the spotlight, even if it leads to more unpredictable racing? Those are the questions moving forward. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're following NASCAR Nation news, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected for weekly coverage and analysis. We'll continue to track this closely. Thanks for watching.